Welcome back to Berlin, Germany, and week 6 of the LEC Spring Split. We've got 5 crucial matchups in the race for playoffs on our hands, starting with first place G2 Esports, looking to continue their dominance against XL Esports. Hello, everyone. I'm Eve, your Sjokz supporter, and as we move into the deciding weeks of the regular season, I want to highlight some of the teams that we near counted out in the last couple of weeks, but they are finding that all-important momentum on the road to playoffs. Now, it's so much on the line, this can be very tough, especially after several losses. But yesterday, multiple teams showed us how it is done, starting with Misfits Gaming. Misfits, they are back from the dead. After losing 4 straight games and falling dangerously low in the standings, Febiven and Maxlor refound their momentum against SK and reignited their inner flame. Misfits seems to be back on track. Now, secondly, I'm not going to stand here and overreact and say Fnatic is back, but Fnatic is back, baby! They smacked down a surging Origin. We saw a reinvigorated Fnatic with an aggressive Broxa, confident Nemesis on Zoe, and Reckless's deadly Kai'Sa, and they put themselves straight back in the race for playoffs. Finally, Vander and Finn, they can now officially be dubbed the saviors of Rogue. They straight up doubled their amount of victories yesterday, but it took blood, sweat, and tears against the ingenious jungle Urgot of XL. Is the miracle run around the corner? I don't think so, but it would make a damn good narrative. Now, in the same game, XL's top laner Expect sent his most loyal ghoul out on a top secret mission behind enemy lines. Let's see how it went. And with that, take the turret, live your best life. I want to introduce you to 2 guys also living their best lives, Christiander Frierson and Alvar Araneae Martin Alienar. Words to live by. I think all of us, if we're in a game and you know you can get that last hit on the turret, but you know that the enemy is coming back, you're just gonna stick around and do it. First tower, second tower, it doesn't matter.
You just say hashtag worth and then you're all good to go.
Hashtag worth. Hey, it's the second day of the week, and of course we're past the halfway point. It's all about the road to playoffs. What were your main takeaways from yesterday?
Well, I think the biggest part is that we come in after seeing Fnatic and Misfits showing up big time yesterday. All of a sudden, we went from having 6 teams that looked like they were playoffs ready. Now we have 8 teams fighting for only those 6 spots, which means that some fan favorites might end up getting bumped out at the end of the split.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Counting Misfits and Fnatic back to the track into the playoffs is something that all the fans want to see because they have a big amount of fan base. Fnatic is probably one of the favorite teams by everyone, and Misfits also everyone would consider him one of the favorites coming into the split with Febiven, with Soaz together. I think they are a huge favorite for the fan base.
Yeah, and I think all of that in context of what's happened has made this so interesting because, of course, I think we can say G2 Esports dropped a game, but it's pretty certain that they're going to get to playoffs and most likely in that top 2 or top 3. But after that, everything seems to be in dubio right now because Schalke was on a roll, not so much last couple of weeks. Origin beat G2, didn't win yesterday. Misfits and Fnatic seemed like completely new teams. It seemed like that race for playoffs has really woken everyone up in the league.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And for me, I'm looking at these sort of 4 champions between 6th and 8th at the moment. You got Splyce, Misfits, SK, and Fnatic, all within 2 games of each other. And those 4 teams, out of those, only 2 can end up making it in the end. So that's what really gets me hyped, looking forward to some of these games, because you have Misfits and Fnatic now trying to push their way back into the picture.
Yeah, the reality is that there's 8 teams now vying for 6 spots, and that is discounting possible miracle runs. Like, I don't know how statistically possible it is, but things are definitely heating up and every game matters. And for a closer look at the state of the LEC, let's head over to Quickshot.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. That's 100% right. And for any of our fans that have been watching Europe over the last 12 months, you might remember the craziness of spring 2018 where we debuted the hashtag Every Game Counts. Now, the reason that's important is as we get near the end of the spring split here in the LEC, I wanted to take a look at just how close the middle and bottom of the table is when it comes to the playoff race. Take a close look at the standings, specifically in the place for 6th, 7th, and 8th. You'll notice that Misfits Gaming at 5 wins and 6 losses is just 1 win ahead of Fnatic, who are sitting at 4 wins and 7 losses. Outside of XL and Rogue, there are very, very real, competitive, and I think crucially believable chances for any 6 of those 8 teams to make it into playoffs. I want to show you just a couple examples, though, of how crucial each and every match is coming up over the next few weeks. And I'm going to start with the 2 teams that our analyst desk set up for me. It is, of course, going to be Misfits. Now, what you see on your screen is 5 of the next 7 games that Misfits will be playing. Origin, Vitality, XL Esports, Fnatic, and Sjokz. And I want to focus in on the Fnatic game because if you cast your mind back to the standings, with a record of 5 and 6, and Fnatic with a record of 4 and 7, if one of those teams can pick up that win, it equals them on the standings. And then you have to look at head-to-head records. When I scroll down Misfits head-to-head, they are currently 1-0 up over Fnatic. So for Fnatic and for the Fnatic fans here in Berlin and everywhere at home, if you want them to be competitive and to try and make a shot at making playoffs, they have to win that game. Why do I turn my attention to Fnatic? Why do I turn my attention away from Misfits? Because Misfits last year, they missed playoffs because of head-to-head records. Let's look at Fnatic's games next. Vitality, Sjokz, Rogue, Misfits. Of these next 5, the only team that Fnatic has a positive win-loss over, meaning they've won the first game, is Misfits. Correction, Rogue, sorry, Rogue, misreading my cue cards. So this means that for Fnatic, every single game playing forward is a must-win game. They are currently outside of the playoff bracket. They are sitting in 8th place. They have to pick up games against some of the top-of-the-table teams. The magic numbers when it comes to playoffs, what you are hoping for as a guiding light, but not a rule, is 9 wins. In the history of the European professional scene, teams that have picked up 9 wins have at worst secured a tiebreaker scenario to make it into playoffs. The only time that rule has been broken was in spring of 2018 when H2K and Roccat forced tiebreaker scenarios with teams like Misfits to make it into playoffs with only 8 wins. That's how it breaks down. Fnatic are currently 4 and 7. They cannot afford to lose more games, but there is obviously a little bit of wiggle room if they want to try and make that 50% win rate and take a step closer towards playoffs. So that does it for a very brief playoff check-in. Expect a lot more detailed and more focused segments over the coming weeks as we get closer and closer to week 9. For now, though, let's head back to Sjokz for Ready Check.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I'm loving that we get these deep dives into the standings just to illustrate how close everything is, because it's not like normal, you know? Like the years before, we have one strong front runner. You're also quite sure about the top 3, and there are some teams that are just locked out of playoffs automatically. All of a sudden, there are 8 teams that are able to get those spots.
Yeah, and it really reminds me a lot of spring split of last year, right? Yeah. Where it felt like all 10 teams had a chance, and you had H2K coming back in the second half of the season, making that miracle run towards the end. So it does give a lot of these fans of teams that are now finding themselves outside of the playoff picture hope now for the coming weeks and for a chance to make it in.
Yeah, if you look at the playoff picture or the possible playoff picture, give me a team that you think will not make it that should make it if you look at the beginning of the split.
If I will have to consider one, I'm going to put a Splyce there. I think a Splyce playstyle is not being the best. They are not evolving or learning a lot during the past weeks. And if I have to put someone that I still think they are a really strong team, I'll probably put a Splyce.
Yeah, I mean, for a team that I don't think will make playoffs, I'm actually going to go Fnatic. I think that their schedule looking forward, I think they have to play G2 in the last week as well. It's going to be hard. No, and here's the thing. I think that after yesterday, I expect them to perform well, but right now they're sitting, I believe, 2 games below what they need to actually sort of compete and get in at that 6th place spot, and I think they really failed in that first half of the split, and that's going to come to hurt them when we get to week 9.
You don't agree, don't you?
I don't agree. I actually think when we were talking yesterday with Martin, with FLICKR, Reckless. He said something that is really true, that when this time comes, when the pressure comes to them, they are the one who has to push the team together, you know? And having people like Reckless, having people like Broxa, having people like Hilisan, they're really experienced people. They can actually help the team, and they can actually help the whole environment to get that wins.
Yeah, and I mean, for them, though, they have to win 5 out of their next 7 games to reach that 9. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's doable,
it's
but
definitely
hard.
doable. It's definitely doable. I also want to remind you guys of what Hussein and Reckless both said yesterday. It's not about getting into playoffs as the 6th best team. It's about getting into playoffs higher than that and being on form that puts you in pole position for that trophy. And that is what everyone is fighting for, to reach the final in the beautiful city of Rotterdam on the 13th and 14th of April. Beautiful city. We've been there before in the Ahoy, and it was actually the very first time that G2 Esports won a European title, so they'll be looking to do that again. Also, you guys can get your tickets right now on pre-sale, eu.lobelissports.com/Rotterdam, and what is more, if you buy them right now, you have the ability of choosing exactly where in the Ahoy Arena you want to sit. So come join us at the LEC Spring Champions as they are decided in an epic conclusion of playoffs. Oh, I can't wait, because, you know, this is all, every week is great, every week is exciting, but it's all building up to that, especially with the fact that it's now the best 3 teams that will be fighting it out.
Exactly. I mean, road shows are always going to be fun, but with that new playoff format as well, it means that all these matches become so much more intense, because you have number 1 facing number 2, and if you finish in those first 2 seeds, it guarantees you that the worst place you can finish, if you lose 2 best-of-5s, is 3rd place. That sends you to Rift Rivals. It sets you up great in terms of championship points. So at the end of their season, sitting 1 and 2 is going to be massive for these teams.
Alvar, there's nothing like playing in a stadium, is there?
There's nothing like playing in a huge stadium with a huge crowd. I think a lot of the players get really, performance really better than playing on a smaller stadium or something like that. I believe, at least from my side, when I was playing with Ocelot back on the time on SK, it was a huge moment for us to play in front of a huge crowd. Yeah. We always get bumped up, and we always actually played better than playing for a smaller crowd.
Yeah, getting that energy from the crowd, and 2 teams who want to be on that stage are Origin and Misfits, and they're competing today in our match of the day. Let's get a preview of the action.
We're feeling great. We went 4-0 in the last 2 weeks, yeah. And we've been winning against G2, who is like smashing everyone.
Not winning against Rogue is just an actual disaster, you know, because they're 0-9. It was actually not even close. We really want to be the best team, you know, I really want to be the best player. But right now, I don't really see it.
I don't think Misfits will come back. I don't see what's about them that would make them, you know, able to beat us. I think they are a bottom tier team, and it's going to be quite one-sided.
I'm for sure one of the best mids in Europe. However, it's hard to be confident in your team when you just lost like 5 games in a row.
Kiku straight into the team, flashes away but can't get away from Forbidden, who has got all 3 kills for Misfits this game. Giving across to Forbidden once again, all of his team's kills sitting on the Rise's shoulders.
That we make playoffs is a given already. I'm not scared at all when I play against G2, so I don't see why I should be scared against the other teams.
I never stop till I win, and I never make it to 10. If I'm down, I'm back up. So much now, Count is dead! 'Cause I am not giving up. I love when push comes to shoving, and he's out of there! He's gone!
Right now we are failing as a team. Our toughest opponent is just ourselves.
I didn't come back to Europe to just, you know, lose again and not be in playoffs again. We will see next week, you know. If I have a matchup that I'm supposed to win, I will win it.
I have the skill to be a top ADC. My support have the skill to be a top support. Even for my mid, my top, my jungle, they have special strength that nobody have in LEC. Hopefully we just gonna click.
Like, my team is playing extremely well. They're really smart. Yeah, I think this is Origin's year, and, you know, the year of the duck.
Now watch me get back up!
Ooh, there we go. I picked a lot up from that video. Of course, the race for playoffs between these 2 is very much on. Febiven saying, we'll see. I didn't come back to Europe to lose, and if I get a matchup that I actually can win, a bit shade to the things that were drafted to him before, I will win. And that's what we saw yesterday. Febiven absolutely popped off.
I mean, it's pretty funny because both teams has an NA import, for saying anyhow. Yeah. Both teams pick up a player who went first to NA and then come back. That is Mithi and Fabian. And I believe they were not performing that well on the start of the split, especially Mythy. You know, they came from a weaker region, they came from a worse region to play solo queue, to play LCS, and then they come here to the great region, to the second best region in the world, and they actually feel the pressure of playing versus the best players in the world, you know?
All right, you could collect your raise after the show.
So it's actually a matchup that I'm really looking forward, because Origin is true that last week they played insanely well versus G2, but yesterday they didn't came up that strong.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm very much looking forward to this and see who can come out on top. We'll see if it goes well for them, because sometimes on the Rift, you're smurfing, everything goes according to plan, your team's winning, you're having the best day. But sometimes, however, nothing goes your way, the universe is working against you, and all you can say is, whoopsie daisies, this just isn't my day. For instance, take this Rogue game where Hikyu and Sjokz, they try a little too hard to make a highlight montage.
Sleepy Trouble Bubble is magnetically attracted to Cagel. He once again gets caught out. Now Baron is helping up. Baron actually chunks down Kickers. His GA gets popped and...
Look at Yorick.
Look Yorick. I'm ending.
Yeah.
You guys should just...
Hey, we can still win.
Ari no shockwave.
that was a shutdown kill in reply for Expects Life. Who's...
Lucian, no flash. Look. Lucian, look flash.
I landed you.
Nice.
Flash. Dion, and then Dion.
Yes.
No flash.
Yes.
Well then, we still are not aligned if he said I'm ending or I'm inting.
He said I'm inting for sure.
Did he? Okay,
Yeah.
But they did win the game, so we wouldn't maybe have played it if they end up losing. But hey, sometimes you need to make those decisions for your team.
I mean, at that time, Sjokz and Hikyu didn't make the best decisions. We saw Sjokz diving in on the whole team, and then Hikyu flashing in to try to kill Orianna when Urgot was in front of him. And then actually, they made Urgot jungle look good in that play, you know, when it's not supposed
crazy.
to be.
It was a whoopsie daisy, and let's take a look at another one. After an impressive winning streak, Origin, they got completely destroyed against Fnatic. One player that had a particularly tough day was their mid laner.
Just ulting the lane. No more aggressive plays from Fnatic. You can tell, though, that OG hesitate for a second. Not sure exactly where he's going to go.
You're on a ward.
Goes over
Get
the
him
wall.
this time.
Reckless knows what's coming. Oh, they're
This
baiting.
is not good.
This is rude.
Reckless is like, oh, I'm going to look tasty. Look at how I stand next to this wall, setting you up for the perfect flash distortion.
No, There's four people coming to you, buddy.
Nemesis
has exhaust. There's just nothing.
Surprise! Here we go. Goodbye to Nuke Duck. Can't dodge the Acathian rain. Just going to get point and click and dead.
Yeah, just don't show him that you know. Don't show him that you know. Don't show him that you know. I will slip him. Yeah, don't show him that you know. Don't show him that you know. Wait. Can you sleep him? Nice.
Ooh, that felt personal, dude.
That was rough. Yes, using two ultimates too.
Yeah.
Really powerful ultimates like Nocturne ultimate and Kai'Sa ultimate to get a guy who was slept.
Yeah. Ooh, painful. Next up, laning against a Blitzcrank can be a pain. You think you've escaped, but then suddenly you get rocket grabbed. Oh, I hate when that happens.
Some people don't know. It's like, well, what happens when you get transformed? Bot lane, it's low with the flash.
Hook goes in. Nice pull forward. They are going to get the knockups. They're immediately. Oh my god! Oh god!
Yeah, I am bot.
They are trying to dive probably.
Okay, is roaming top side, care. Do you guys want to look for something bot? I'm here. Yeah, look.
They are diving top. I will back up.
I'll flash on him. Yeah, I have heal. Oh, nice. Nice. I can step.
I love it.
Poor Chachi's like, they're diving me topside. What's going on?
It doesn't matter, dude. You're on the top lane island. Figure it out. Finally, it's not only the players that can have a bad day. When you're live on air, it hurts a little extra if you mess up.
And Odo might be comfortable running that into the likes of Urgot if it gets picked up. It's available. It is still 100% picked and banned along with Lucian here in the LEC in spring. There's a Jace insta-lock after the Lucian ban.
Now, Jace is really interesting because he's been rising in
In priority?
Water went down the wrong tube, and now I can't breathe. Right. Jace, much more important on the current meta right now.
We've all been there when you're on air and like something is stuck or something, or you need to cough, but you just want to try. I commend them for trying.
I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. But I love Benny's just like drinking with the mic right next to his face.
He's
like
going.
it was bound for disaster.
Yeah, some of the things that are part of the glamorous life of being a caster that you don't see. But let's turn our attention to the action we have on the Rift. 5 crucial matchups with the teams that are looking to strengthen their position in the race for playoffs. As said already, 8 teams want to get in those playoffs and are realistically in a position to do so. A lot is jumping out. pick me your one matchup that you think could be very deciding for the playoff race.
I think number one for me has to be Fnatic down here against Vitality. Vitality right now is the second best team in the LEC, and Fnatic need to win as many games as possible. It starts right here with Vitality.
But wait. You said if Fnatic is not going to go to playoffs, so you actually picked that matchup.
No.
Just to
Here's the thing.
Right?
I think Fnatic have a tough time getting to playoffs because they have to win so many games. But I think they're actually in a very good spot right now. They can win this one, but these are the games they have to win in order to actually make that leap.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's see what people picked in their predictions. Now, in the first place currently is the people at home on Twitter. They shared the first place with Drakos for a very, very long time. But you guys are reigning supreme. Fantastic. The fans are the superior analysts, so I'm just going to say they're probably right in what they pick. Yay! I've picked what the fans picked for Sjokz versus SK, so that's good. Also, I think I'm the Misfits mascot, so...
Yeah,
I mean, when you're here, they win, so...
I'm the Rogue one.
Yeah,
the only one voting for Rogue, not even the
also,
fans.
You and the fans voted for Fnatic. I know you're a bit of a Fnatic fanboy, so that doesn't surprise me. So, yeah, we'll see. That could make a big difference when it comes to the standings. Interesting one at that. Now, the teams here, they're battling, of course, to get to Rotterdam, but the action is also underway in Spain, in the Spanish Superliga Orange, and there we see some familiar names. Now, I'm going to break it down for you. The most important and best teams there are G2 Heretics and Origin BC, and nobody else is really playing that well. What?
Wait, Evie. We see Mad Lions there. They are tied together with them, and we are currently the European Masters champions.
Yeah.
So I think you have to put a bit of us on there.
I was just joking, you know. Anyway, tell us about the league right now. We know, of course, that the Superliga is always very, very highly seen as a talented region. A lot of players come over to the main regions after they've played there. So what is kind of the story there now?
Okay, so I think I will consider last split Superliga Orange as the best region outside, obviously, the LCS. Right now, the level is a bit more stacked. It's not that great, but we have a lot of good teams. So even though we are considering G2 Heretics, Origin Barcelona, and Mad Lions as the top 3 teams, there is also Giants and Splice Vipers as a really good contenders coming up. So I think we have a lot of good teams, but we don't have, like last year, one team who is much better than the rest that I consider ourselves in the last year, Mad Lions. But yeah, that's how I say it.
Of course, a lot of players came over here to play, so it's going to take a little bit of time there for the teams to find their form. Now, if I can make a little bit of advertisement for the broadcast, they have a great broadcast there. Ibai is, of course, absolutely phenomenal at what he does. And if you want to check that out, you can check out lvp.es/Superliga to check out all the action. For now, though, we're going to look ahead towards our very first game of the day, G2 versus Exile. Now, the #1 in Europe is still looking like they are in a solid form. They dropped that game last week, but we don't even remember that because they beat Schalke yesterday. Convincingly, I leave that to my analysts.
Well, it started off pretty bumpy here for G2 because honestly, they took a few bad fights in the early game that put them at a deficit that we probably didn't even think they could come back from. But it really was after that, 15-minute mark where Yenko super showed up on the Elise, was making ganks happen every 30, 45 seconds. He was very, very active, and that got his team enough of a lead to close out the game actually pretty early.
Araneae, I know your name comes from
Spider.
Spider, you love playing Elise. You always love to do it as well. What did you make of Jankos' Elise?
I mean, I think they're playing a playstyle around early game where Elise is really, really good. If you're planning to play for mid to late game, Elise is not the best champion because she's really fall behind. But if you're that aggressive early game and you can come up with strong plays like G2 is doing right now, Elise is a really good champion for them.
It works, and I think from Jankos, we've flown a bit under the radar because we're always talking about Caps and we're always talking about Perkz and about Wonder and about Mickey X. But this guy has been very, very consistent, even though, with Karthus, it's hard to tell. Yeah, he pressed R, but I don't know. I feel like I'm getting more consistent and better stuff out of him than I've seen on that level in the last couple of years. He has always been there for his team. So
yeah, I mean, I would say it's a night and day difference between 2018 Jankos and 2019 Jankos. And part of that is that the rest of his team is performing very well, so it lets him play very aggressive in the early game, but he's definitely stepping up on champions like the Elise.
Yeah, G2 is riding on a high, but as said yesterday on PGL, we're looking at them to play even better, to get more in their toolbox for when they arrive at those best of 5s. And for more on G2, let's hear from Drakos and Perkz.
Thank you very much. I am now joined by Perkz. Perkz, it's been a very strong performance thus far this season for G2, but in the first half, one of your only hiccups was against Excel. That was a very, very close game where you guys said we might need to tighten up in the future. Are you going to kind of give the same leeway to Excel that you did the first time you played them, or are you guys going full steam ahead in this match?
Well, we realized that a lion has to use the full strength even when he's eating a rabbit. So we are just gonna go out full strength today and hopefully show a cleaner game than the last performance we did. So this doesn't happen again where we have to play a 45 minutes game against XL. Yeah, I think we should have it clean today.
I think the odds are definitely in your favor, but I like the lion to rabbit comparison. A lot of confidence coming through there. I'm curious. Yesterday, they of course brought out Urgot Jungle, a creative pick. Are you worried at all about more of these creative picks coming out in draft? Is there anything that you think that they could pull out that you might be scared of?
Well, we are kind of like the guys for creative picks, so I'm not really scared of any creative picks they do. I feel like if there's any creative picks on the map, we benefit from it. And I don't feel I can get thrown off by anything they pick. So maybe they prove me wrong, but I think that I feel very confident whatever they pull off.
All right. As now, final question: is there anything special that G2 have prepared today? Anything special that might come out in the draft that we can look forward to? You guys have obviously shown us a lot of creativity over the last few days, including that bot lane chase.
Well, there's a lot of stuff we do prepare, but I don't know. I don't know if it's special or not, because for us it's not really that special, right? So maybe like people like casters and like analysts and like people as well, like just say, oh, this is really special, this is a really cool flex, blah blah blah. We're just used to it by now. Like it's not even weird anymore that whatever we play, right? And yeah, the most important is that we have a strong draft, whether if it's special picks or normal picks, and I think we just have to stay focused in draft, and then we'll have a good game.
All right, well, I'm excited to see how that draft unfolds today. Good luck in your game versus Excel.
Thank you.
All right, and that's going to be it from us. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you very much. After what we've talked about in terms of G2's strength, what did you guys take away from that interview?
I mean,
did you
I have to agree. No, I have to agree with Perkz. They are the team who are actually pulling all the special things, like putting Zoe bot lane, putting Jace bot lane, playing Karthus and Elise. I believe they were the first team in doing that in Europe. So I think they are actually the team coming up with all these strange strategies, all these strange champions, flexing them every single where on the map. So I can agree with him, but I'm gonna still expect something for Excel that might be surprising for them.
Ah, do you have any insider information?
No, not really.
No, not really. Oh, yeah.
Tell us what you know.
I mean, I think it's logical. If we look at Excel, yesterday they took a chance versus Rogue. They drafted that jungle Urgot for Kadril. That didn't work out, and I think it was kind of unnecessary because I feel like Rogue is a team they should be able to beat just standard on the things they have. But now, though, you come in versus G2 Esports, I believe you should try something, just not this. How do you think they should approach it?
Well, I think if you're going to try something creative and unique, it's not going to be with a passive early game jungler for Kadril. He couldn't do anything on the Urgot. When this team is succeeding, it's Kadril on something that can make plays early on. So if it's something like a Pantheon that Kick has brought out, I'm okay with that, just not something that wants to farm and then eventually do stuff later.
Yeah, the TLDR is we need to see Kadril on something aggressive early. That's what he's had the most success on. Also, when they played G2 back in the first round of the Spring Split.
Yeah, they were playing a teamfight com, and they actually played really, really well around this, because G2, as we said, is not a team who excel on teamfights or who is really good on teamfights, but they are a team who is individually really good, and they move around the map really well with these 1-3-1s and this early game composition. Excel, what they planned was this teamfight com, and they almost beat G2. Almost. As almost
I
everyone
think maybe
does.
we're looking back with rose-colored glasses, but they did put up a great fight where nobody expected this. But this is such a tough one for me because G2 is great. They are on a roll. They will most likely not drop this game, not in a million years. And as Excel, you think, hey, we had early action and we had a lead and we still lost. We tried something, you know, we can't try something, but then you have Perkz saying, for us, nothing is a surprise, and we welcome if other people try some things because it's nice for us. I don't know. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I want to see something out of them. I want to see life. I don't want to see them roll over and die.
Exactly, and I want to see them take a comp, sort of like Misfits yesterday, right? Take a teamfight comp that's very easy to execute and beat G2 in the 5v5. That is where G2 can be exploited right now.
Yeah, if you're Kadril in this match, and the type, you know, of jungler that you used to be, maybe you still are, I don't know how good you are nowadays, what would you do to shut down Janko?
Probably taking out Elise is not a bad option because they benefit from Elise, early game ganks and early game pathing. So actually Elise is a really powerful champion for them. And probably what we were saying about picking an early game jungle to do the action is actually positive for Excel to do something around the map.
All right, XL, give us some early action. Time to hit the Rift for our first game on a day that can turn everything around in the LEC. Let's see what happens.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Let's see what